So this is the Heel to the Face podcast. Brandon John Cena this week said in an interview that Brock Lesnar is one of the greatest in-ring performers he has ever seen. Are you now a bigger fan of John Cena than ever before?
Absolutely not. Not a chance in hell. John Cena, I lost you there, buddy.
Sorry, I know one guy who is. The Heel to the Face podcast starts right now.
So silence your cell phones, hold your applause, and tune into the truth.
Oh, you didn't know? Your ass better call somebody.
Getting beat up by 9 guys in Syracuse, to me, there's not a whole lot of shame in.
From the 315 to the world, this is the Heel to Face podcast.
The cream of the crop! Wow, man, freaked out!
Follow the show on Twitter and Instagram at Heel to the Face.
I said, are you ready?
From Armory Square in downtown Syracuse, New York, let's send it now to Brandon and Jared.
Bad luck seems to be my middle name. They might as well tag me up with my buddies from Syracuse.
Another edition of the Heel to the Face podcast, coming off Super Bowl Sunday, but coming into XFL football this upcoming Saturday and Sunday. But more importantly, this is Pro Wrestling Talk, as we are joined, as always, with Brandon the Icebreaker Clement. You can find him on Twitter at Icebreaker21, myself at KRock Jared on Instagram and Twitter. The show, most importantly, at Heel to the Face. So a lot of stuff to talk about. We got a main topic I want to focus on this week, but before we get to it, let's get you up to date on some stuff that, let's say, took place on Raw and is going to maybe be taking place this upcoming week on SmackDown. Start with Monday Night Raw, the kickoff. Randy Orton comes out to just a chorus of boos, says, "I can't do this," puts the mic down and leaves. He doesn't say a word. He stands there quietly. How did you like the kickoff to Raw? I enjoyed it. I think that feels WrestleMania-like.
Yeah, I agree. I feel the exact same way. I thought it was good. I thought he didn't have to say much, and he got his message across. I thought it was. It really
reminded
good.
me of the Monday Night Raw after WrestleMania 33 when Roman Reigns came out. It was like 10 minutes of just boos. He tried to say something, boos. Tried to say something, boos. Then just said, "What would this is my yard now," and then dropped the mic, and that was it. That was it, and that's what Randy Orton. That's what this felt like. It felt like, what is he going to say? And it's perfect.
And here's the thing, too.
Less is more.
Honestly, this is going to be a great build for WrestleMania season.
Hopefully, WrestleMania season.
I think so. I think it will be. I think it's going to be a WrestleMania season. I do believe that Christian is reportedly they might be working with getting Christian involved because of the whole issue. Randy Orton attacking Edge, who is Christian is best friends with Edge, so their relationship. I heard they're at this point. I've been reading different rumors online that they're going through a battery test to see if Christian can maybe do some physicality. And then they might bring him on. Now, going back to Edge, Edge has a contract. It's 25 shows a year is what he signed up for. So that having Christian involved would actually fill in the gaps a little bit in between, having Edge there 1 week, Christian. Then you can kind of mix it up a little bit because Randy Orton's obviously full-time. Mm-hmm. So it kind of it's going to, if this all goes through as reported, then I think it'll be cool.
I'm just afraid that at WrestleMania we might be getting a rematch or a different match because they do have Super Showdown coming first. I'm not worried about it happening at Elimination Chamber, but I am worried about it might be happening at Super Showdown. That kind of scares me because Super Showdown is not like the traditional No Way Out pay-per-views of the past that were WrestleMania builds. It is like a WrestleMania before WrestleMania, at least card-wise. For example, this upcoming week on SmackDown, it has been confirmed Goldberg is going to be there, and in WrestleMania seasons of the past, that would be awesome. But I think it's really for him to announce what he's going to do at Super Showdown versus anything to do with WrestleMania. In fact, I can almost guarantee he won't be at WrestleMania, but will be at Super Showdown.
Yeah, which to me makes zero sense. Why are we having him at the Showdown? I know.
It's money.
Zero sense from a creative aspect. Like, if you're going to have Goldberg back in some way, shape, or form, why the hell are you doing it there versus WrestleMania? I get it. It's the money thing. Obviously, money drives everybody, so I get it. But, like, why wouldn't you put him, on the WrestleMania card potentially?
What happened to him saying he was done, I don't know, 6 months ago at SummerSlam?
Does anybody really retire in wrestling? Let's be honest. Come on.
He didn't even give it, the old college try.
I mean, shoot, Undertaker's retired how many times? So, come on.
Well, technically, Undertaker's never come out and said, "This is my final match."
Yeah, but we all assume
Ric Flair has, Shawn Michaels has, Goldberg has.
Shawn Michaels, again, I've said this on previous programs, he's the one guy that stuck to his guns, though. He had his final match, and he has not wrestled since.
You said that last week, and I reminded you that he did indeed wrestle since at Saudi Arabia.
No, he didn't.
Yes, it's DX teaming up against the Brothers of Destruction. This was, a year ago? Not
Did
even?
he?
the Brothers of Destruction against DX.
He did? I don't remember. See, I don't remember.
Super Showdown.
See, that's my point.
That was
Showdown.
1 year ago. Remember, they all got hurt after the match because there was supposed to be more going on with it. Maybe Shawn Michaels comes back to the ring. We might have a match with him and AJ Styles, what have you. But then him and Triple H and The Undertaker, like
that proves my point, though.
We're just all exhausted.
I totally forgot
match.
Shawn Michaels was in that program. That shows that just proves to me my point. How shitty that show was.
You forgot his bald head already?
Well, no, I know he has a bald head. We've seen him on NXT UK and stuff.
Well, I mean, but you forgot his bald head in the ring? Because that, to me, you see him on NXT.
Yeah,
I see him on NXT as just the face that they say is going to be helping do stuff after the show's over.
He's the Triple H of NXT UK. That's what he is.
But
that's how bad Super Showdown is to me. That's how forgettable it is when you forget a guy like HBK. That's why the Super Showdown, I don't get hyped up for him. I don't even really watch him. Point proven. I read some of the stuff quick just to see what's going on. But that's to my point.
Do we not hype up Super Showdown here in the States because we just don't want to admit that they give that the WrestleMania treatment and we want to still hold WrestleMania near and dear, so we pretty much ignored it. Literally, like if there was a Super Bowl and then there was two teams that were both 9-7 and they met in the Super Bowl, and then two teams who, let's say, had 15-1 records throughout the season got knocked off in the conference championship games, and unbeknownst to the NFL decided we are going to play each other outside the NFL. We're going to put on our own game. We're going to rent a stadium the same size as the Super Bowl. We're going to play each other, and we're going to have a trophy. And literally, we as a society would just not acknowledge that 15-1 versus 15-1 game because we don't want it to overtake what we love more. So we just pretend it's nothing. We just pretend, even if they're all playing as hard as they can, that we just don't care. Because it's 80,000 people. It's the same fireworks. It's a WrestleMania
Here's
set.
the thing. Here's
all the big stars.
Here's the difference, though. Here's the difference. There's no storyline buildup, really. There really isn't.
True.
It's not like we're building up to a WrestleMania program after the Royal Rumble. You know what I mean? It's like they put like legends together, like, dream matchup here between this guy and this guy.
The first time I'll admit they didn't. This time around, though, they are kind of treating it like the next pay-per-view. For example, the first time around, they just treated it straight up like a house show. This time around, we're actually having matches on Raw and Smackdown that are, have Super Showdown implications.
What are we going to do? Build it up for one show and then get to it? What is
WrestleMania? It is one show.
No, I'm saying like building the storyline in one show, like one program, like one Raw or
what
SmackDown.
Got, Super Showdown's the end of the month, so you have
cut a promo and then go. It's like I don't like that.
I just feel a lot of the big time matches we have at WrestleMania were the same build, where it's the Undertaker comes out on Raw out of nowhere, hasn't been seen, challenges Triple H, goes away again, and we just have that match. Undertaker versus Kane at WrestleMania 20. When Undertaker came back from having been gone for a year, back in the Dead Man gimmick from his American Badass gimmick, kind of the same way. It was, John Cena versus Undertaker at WrestleMania in New Orleans a couple years ago. Kind of the same thing. It was just hey, we got to fight? I don't know. And then you show up at WrestleMania and the match happens. There wasn't these back and forth.
It was awful.
For months.
I hated that. That sucked. That sucked. Dude.
I personally am, I guess my thing is, I'm in the boat of what I was just talking about. I don't want a pay-per-view to just outdo WrestleMania. This, just like the NFL wouldn't let something outdo its Super Bowl, its prized possession. I don't know why WWE lets this happen. And what I mean by that is they can have these big events, but they should definitely have them, let's say, summertime. Maybe replace SummerSlam. Maybe put SummerSlam, maybe just call it SummerSlam and just have SummerSlam in Saudi Arabia every single year. And I think the big thing is showing how easily accessible they are to the big names. And that's what's annoying to me is when I went to WrestleMania, I was just so, excited to see the Undertakers, the Goldbergs, the Brock Lesnar's, the people you don't see on a regular occasion because it's WrestleMania, finding out that the almighty dollar will bring them out to a SmackDown, if they want it. And that's what the Super Showdown shows us, is that, the whole Undertaker coming out of retirement because he wanted to have a WrestleMania match. The Undertaker's coming out of retirement because they're giving him a $1 bill, and he'd come out of retirement for Monday Night Raw. He'd come out of retirement for an AEW Dynamite if you gave him the money, and that's what this Super Showdown is ruining for me. It's just showing me that, these matchups that we've wanted for so long, the Stone Cold versus Goldberg,
I'm gonna counter,
still on the table.
I'm going to counter one name in particular that he really doesn't care about the money because he already makes he's the richest man in Hollywood right now.
Talking about The Rock.
The Rock's not going to. I mean, if he's got a time available in his slot because he's got movies and other things he's doing, TV shows and whatnot. He's not gonna. He's gonna make WWE work around his schedule. He's not gonna be like, oh, let me block off time, and WWE's gonna throw me a bunch of money and go to the show.
True.
The Rock is one of those names where he can't specifically just be bought for a show. Like he, if he wants to go, he'll pretty much say, yeah, I'm in Miami. This is my home. This is where this is my home. I went to school. This and that. Where I grew up. I'm gonna show up, and guess what? Vince is like, sure. All right, how much do you want? That's really what it is.
One match that I'm particularly happy WWE is making Super Showdown feel like a no way out, I guess. In years past, I'd be lucky enough as a Brock Lesnar fan, and those who don't like Brock Lesnar, be lucky enough to know that he's not going to wrestle between the Royal Rumble and WrestleMania to build up his WrestleMania match, but because it is Super Showdown, that he is going to compete in a pay-per-view before WrestleMania and kind of ruin his build-up of Drew McIntyre, but WWE took a step back a little bit in making him face Ricochet instead of Bobby Lashley and Seth Rollins, and I think that's a good choice. Now, I'm not saying anything against Ricochet. I think he's a great talent, but what we've learned, especially with Drew McIntyre, what he has taught us the most is that unlike regular sports, you are only as good as you are billed to be. If Drew McIntyre is a jobber, Drew McIntyre is a jobber. If Great Khali is the biggest, greatest competitor in WWE history, he is. If he's a jobber, he's a jobber. It has nothing to do with how you look, because Drew McIntyre is showing us that right now. One day, if he lost to Mojo Rawley, we would laugh. Or we would think, like, of course, he's going to lose to Mojo Rawley. He's a joke. He's nothing. And then the next day, he's a champion. He hasn't changed his height. He hasn't changed his name. He's just changed how we perceive him.
And he hasn't changed his physique either. He still looks good.
So that's how we perceive him. So with Ricochet, for example, which is good about this, is he's very good, but we don't really perceive him yet to be, heavyweight champion.
No, to me, at this point, I would put
him
to
be a real competitor for Brock Lesnar to be like Drew McIntyre is or Seth Rollins is.
Right now he's a solid mid card is what he really is. He's a solid mid card.
He's entertaining.
Yeah, he's entertaining. He's a nice U.S. Intercontinental contender. That's where I put him, and that's fine. I think give him another year or two. I think we can build him up the right way. I mean, let's be honest. I think we all can agree, as much as I don't like Brock Lesnar, there's no way Ricochet is winning that match. I mean,
yeah, and I like that they put him against Ricochet because of the fact that I don't foresee this really being a match in which Ricochet is going to look like he's going to be Brock Lesnar. He's going to, if anything, this might just be like a tune-up or make Brock Lesnar look even better heading into his match against Drew McIntyre. It's not going to ruin it. I think if he fought Seth Rollins, it might ruin it because Seth Rollins, Brock Lesnar was your main event at WrestleMania last year, was your main event at SummerSlam last year. So we're actually seeing a WrestleMania-style match before WrestleMania.
Spoiler alert. This is what's going to happen. No offense to Ricochet. He's going to get squashed. That's what's going to happen. Brock Lesnar,
which is good for WrestleMania.
Yeah, it's good for WrestleMania build up. I mean, it sucks for Ricochet, but I think Ricochet can bounce back because it's Brock Lesnar. Yes. I mean, people. I mean, look at the people that got eliminated in the Royal Rumble, like John Morrison. They're still giving him a nice push, and he got demolished by Lesnar at the Rumble. So it's not. It's like the biggest thing is you can take these squash and like these beatings from Brock Lesnar and look awful and look like you're not up to his level and still not get. It's not going to hurt you. In that aspect, I mean, it would hurt somebody like Seth Rollins, to your point, because of obviously the match that we had before, and then another name is Roman Reigns. That I think that would hurt him a little bit.
And to be honest with you, I don't think it would necessarily hurt, but I feel like we still have that thing that we've never got to see that we probably wanted to see even 20 years ago, and that's Bobby Lashley, Brock Lesnar, the two beasts. But right now, Bobby Lashley's not necessarily built tough like Drew McIntyre. He's a little softer. He's going through love triangles. Not really the hardened Bobby Lashley. But I still don't want to see him face Brock Lesnar until it's that beast versus beast.
It'd be like to me, I think the good, what would happen if this Bobby Lashley thing and Brock Lesnar thing would ever happen, it would have to be something drastic in Bobby Lashley's character, to your point, where he pretty much breaks it off with Lana and like just goes like full badass mode. And then we're like, all right, let's do it.
He goes Drew McIntyre mode. He goes Braun Strowman mode.
Exactly.
He starts flipping ambulances, that kind of thing. And I'd love to see it because he's got that awesome build. I'd love to, Vince McMahon loves, monster versus monster. He loves Braun versus Brock, and I'd love to see, Bobby Lashley. As soon as Bobby Lashley came back, I said, maybe we'll finally get that matchup because I felt like we didn't get that matchup back in the day. And another matchup we never got to see is Batista versus Brock. They were always on different shows. We always want to see that. But this is the matchup we get to see, but I don't want to see it with Bobby Lashley until he looks like a formidable opponent.
Yeah, I agree.
Until he matches Brock Lesnar's I don't give an F with his I don't give an F kind of thing.
Speaking of monsters, how about Braun Strowman, new champ, huh?
New IC champion. Hey, who knows? Maybe it's not too late. Can we have Brock versus Braun at WrestleMania? Title versus title? WrestleMania 6 style?
Yeah, I don't see that happening.
I feel Braun Strowman's been sliding down. I mean, great that he's an Intercontinental Champion, so he hasn't fallen off the face of the earth. But I feel like, really? I mean, he's going in the wrong direction. The IC.
Here's the thing. I don't think it's in the wrong direction.
He just won the AAA championship when a couple years ago he has appeared in the World Series.
Here's the thing. I don't think it's a knockdown for him because he's never had a championship belt.
Yeah, well, true.
So I mean, that's a prestigious title to have. The I mean, look at all the Hall of Famers that had the Intercontinental.
Who do you
title.
see now as a good opponent for him in the IC belt range? Because he is like a Brock Lesnar.
Ooh, that is a good question. I would, and you know what? I'll throw a name out there. I mean, he just got back, John Morrison. I think that'd be cool to see the parkour style with with Braun's style. I think that would be cool.
Braun's got a Brock Lesnar style. Let's be real.
Yeah, I mean Is
there anybody out there who could match his kind of beast? I mean, Otis. No.
I love Otis. So actually, I want to flip to that real quick. What are your thoughts on the whole Otis Mandy Rose thing? I love it. I think it's
it's fascinating.
You know what he reminds me of, Otis? He reminds me of Chris Farley. Just kind of has that like funny like blue collar personality.
Yeah,
he just acts funny. Mandy, will you go out with me? Like I think Otis is a great competitor. He has a unique look.
It kind of reminds me of the things he used to do with Eugene back in the day a little bit with female talent. Maybe even Mark Henry.
I was gonna say don't put him on Eugene's level. I mean, I think Otis is a lot better of a wrestler, in-ring competitor. I think Otis. I think he could do okay without Tuck. I think Tuck's good. I think they're a good tag team. Not yet, but I think he can. I think he has a unique style. It's the way he delivers and talks. He's got a unique body. His look is very unique. He's big, but he's short. Like he has a unique look to him. And he's fun. I enjoy watching Otis. I think he's fun. I think Tuck's good too. So I mean, they're both good. It's just interesting to see that dynamic between Mandy Rose and him. I think it's cool.
I want to get to our main topic of the week. I wanted to bring this up last week. I've noticed at NXT, it's been made official, not in WWE when it comes to their main belts, but in NXT. It all started at when Worlds Collide in Houston. It was made official. When I saw it, the NXT UK Women's Belt is now just referred to as the NXT UK Championship. And the NXT Women's Belt, held by Rhea Ripley, is now just called the NXT Championship belt as well. It hasn't taken place on Raw and SmackDown yet, but people like Becky Lynch have definitely been advocating for it. Becky Lynch is one of the people who was very excited about the women's name being taken off of those belts. Becky Lynch has been somebody who says that it's about time that we break down even more doors and even more barriers. And she's also said things, for example, like, we don't want to just be looked at as women's matches. For example, back in the day, you'd have 7 matches and a women's match on the card. And they say, oh, we can't have you tonight. We already have a women's match. And they want to be looked at as even just matches. And I'm all about that.
Yeah,
but
I agree.
When it comes to taking the word women's off the belts, I think it's not just a little too premature, but I don't think there's really a need for it at all. What is your opinion? I'll give you my reasons why.
Here's the thing. I'm not opposed to it really either way. I think for just to keep it less confusing, I think it's good to have the women's name on there. I think it's definitely, and it's not a slap in the face. It's better than Divas, the Divas Championship. Like that sucked. The Divas Championship was a slap in the face to all the female competitors. So having the women's title, I like it. I like it with the women's champion. I like that.
Well, that's my big thing is the confusion, and the fact of the matter is, if you take the name women's off the belt, that doesn't take away the fact that it is still being competed for by women. So like that, I guess that's my thing. Becky Lynch wants.
So is Santina Marella? What is it? Santina Marella is he or she going to be wrestling against Becky Lynch because it's not a women's title? There's a lot of confusion that could.
Vince McMahon, obviously we saw at the Royal Rumble. I mean, he's before had Santina Marella win a women's Royal Rumble that was to celebrate 25 years of women in WWE. He also had James Ellsworth win the first women's Money in the Bank match. So, I mean, Vince McMahon has taken things where you think they're breaking down barriers and he's kind of used them for parody. I guess that's my thing is you can't take the name women's off of these belts because of the fact that you're not advocating that they are still going to be gender specific.
Yeah.
Okay. Now, here's the thing. The name women's isn't on the main heavyweight belt. So people like Becky Lynch and Charlotte Flair. I could see them, not necessarily, but I could see them fighting for those belts. But I don't think people who are advocating, like Becky Lynch or Charlotte Flair, for the name women to be taken off the women's belt would be okay with men then fighting for those belts.
True.
So you say you don't want these belts to be, tied down, but you do want these belts to be tied down because this is a women's evolution. This is a women's breaking the barriers, breaking down the doors. You don't want these belts to be contested for by anybody but women. And that's part of the reason. But at the same time, look at the Women's Royal Rumble and look, they even specify now that we have, Women's Royal Rumble. Yeah, we have a Women's Royal Rumble for a reason. Becky Lynch, I don't think is going to say there's a problem with that. Does she want now the two Royal Rumbles to mix? Does she want an intergender Royal Rumble? I mean, we had Beth Phoenix, China, all those people in the past, but does she want the fact of an intergender Royal Rumble and one winner? I doubt it.
See, I'm with you on that. I agree. To me, it's not, and here's the thing, I have all the respect in the world for the women's division. I think they've done a hell of a job, especially in the last handful of years.
And I don't think we're at that. I don't think we're at a point, which she's saying, where we already have too many women's matches on the card. The Royal Rumble is a good example of that. 6 matches, 3 women's, 3 men's.
I'm fine with it. If the women's matches are good, I don't really care.
I don't really care I don't count how many women's matches versus how many men's matches. Matches are matches.
To me, it's all about matches. And if, again, quality matches. I don't care if it's, a female match versus, a female, like a women's tag match or a men's tag match. If the matches if they're built better, I want the female matches. I want the better built matches. I don't really care.
And you don't have to label those matches as women's matches. I think companies maybe back in the day did. If it was 2 women facing each other, they'd say a special attraction or in a women's match. I don't think we need to do that. I think we can just say it's Bayley versus Becky Lynch and there's no belt on the line. We don't have to say coming up next, women's match.
Well, no, I'm not saying it like that. I'm saying women's tag title match, something like that.
We don't have to when they're facing each other and no belts are on the line. We don't have to call it a women's match. We don't have to draw attention to it. But when there is a specific championship on the line and you have to differentiate, you got to have the name women's in there. I mean, we're not at a point yet in any sports. It's what could you imagine, I guess, if that's the case, if they took the W off of WNBA and you got tickets to the NBA finals. I mean, talk about confusion. You scored some tickets to the NBA finals in Washington, D.C. and you find out, wait, hold on. The Mystics versus
Liberty.
The Liberty here.
What?
What's going on? I mean, and it's not, again, knock on the women. It's the fact that there has to be this separation because of confusion.
It's a confusion thing. It's not discriminatory by any means whatsoever. It's just, it's easier to differentiate. Like you said, I 100% agree with you. That's why I'm glad they've moved away from the diva stuff, because the diva stuff to me was really, I didn't like the diva stuff back in the day anyways. I like the fact that it's women's matches, which means they're superstars. They're competitors. It's, I love that. And I think, and to be honest with you, a lot of times those matches are better than the men's matches anyways.
And here's the thing. I'm perfectly happy with the women's match main eventing. A couple years ago, we had the Women's Royal Rumble main event. We had the all women's pay-per-view. I think we are definitely at a point where women's matches versus men's matches, it's all the same. We're just as excited for the Raw Women's Championship as we are for the men's Universal Championship.
Yeah.
But I guess the thing is, and this is the biggest issue is, and it's kind of unfair, is that you want the women's name taken off, but women, in all honesty, could compete for men's belts. China was an Intercontinental Champion.
Yeah.
And China at one time was rumored to be the men's heavyweight champion. But I don't know in any universe in where they would be, any of the women on the roster would be okay if that was done in reverse.
True. I'm with you. I agree.
I think all the boys in the back were fine with China, being the IC champion. I don't know any women in the back that would be fine with John Morrison as the Raw Women's Champion.
Yeah, to me, I think you're going in the wrong direction.
Yes.
You really are.
So with that being said, keep the name women's on the belt.
Agreed.
Until the belt is an intergender belt. If you're not wanting it to be an intergender belt, you want it to be a specific gender belt, then that's what it should be. I understand, this whole, gender is fluid and everything that's going on in the world today. But for this specifics, I mean, in sports, we still have the WNBA. We have the Women's Final Four. We have women's, soccer, Women's World Cup. we have those names. They're not any knock. If anything, what I've learned in this country alone in the last couple of years is that Women's World Cup is way more popular than the Men's World Cup, at least in this country.
Well, yeah, because the women's team is really good and the men's team is not really good. So it's the United States, and that's the thing. And the women's soccer leagues are getting bigger and bigger. Like they're expanding. Like every year, there's a new thing coming out. And now the WNBA just had. I don't know the specifics off the top of my head, but they're getting significant pay increases. So the wages are going to be more, they're going to be, a little bit better. I mean, that's a step in the right direction. So, I think that WNBA is doing a great job there. And these women they're going to start making comparable money to the men. I mean, some of them already do. And I know they fought hard with the Women's World Cup. The biggest issue they had was they were not making the kind of money that the Men's World Cup, when the men didn't do crap. The women's team won the damn thing. And they're making less money than the men who barely did anything. They lost, and it's like, so the women fought for that. And I know the women's hockey, they've been fighting for it as well. So it's, the women are doing a great job. I love the women's, it's not even just in WWE, but in all sports, this women's revolution, whatever the hell you want to call it. Kudos to the ladies. Seriously.
So I think we're pretty much in agreement for at least the definite future. Keep women's on the women's championship belts.
Leave it be.
So not happy with what exactly is going on in NXT. Hopefully on Raw and SmackDown it stays the same. They would have kind of a grace in the sense of the championships for the men are called the Universal and the WWE, which if they did take women's off the Raw and the SmackDown belt would still, because the Raw champion would be the women's champion, because they are different names. But if there is a Raw men's champion and a Raw women's champion, like we see in NXT, where there's NXT champion, you can't have two NXT champions and call them the same thing if you're, trying to get me to know exactly what we're talking about.
Exactly.
So finally, I just want to ask you real quick before we go off the show, Goldberg's coming on SmackDown. Who do you think he's going to challenge for Super Showdown, if you had a guess?
If I had to guess, put money on it, I will say Undertaker.
Ooh. That's a good one. I don't necessarily know Undertaker's coming out of retirement just yet. I don't partake to see Undertaker.
What did we talk about earlier? Dollars. True.
That is what we said.
At the end of the day, it's all about the money. And guess what? The Saudi Arabian folks, they will dole out all the money in the world. So that's why I'm saying Goldberg Taker.
I say Matt Riddle.
What?
Yeah, I mean, the feud that they had going on there in the back after SummerSlam.
Yeah,
don't call me bro.
I mean, no, I don't think Riddle's ready for that yet.
Yeah. Well, no,
that's just me.
Yeah, hopefully it's another throwaway match so we don't ruin Goldberg and maybe we can actually get him in.
I don't want to ruin Riddle. Riddle's doing a fantastic job. He just won the Dusty Classic with Pete Dunne.
Yeah, they're going for the tag belts.
Let's
And we'll break that down next week. The tag belts at NXT. NXT Portland, the first NXT takeover on a Sunday night all by itself in Portland, Oregon, of all places.
I love it.
We'll talk about that next week. For Brandon the Icebreaker Clements, for myself at K-Rock Jared, this has been another edition of the Heel to the Face podcast. Till next week.